Hello and welcome to this week's Sunday sit-down video where I talk in length about a subject, or in today's case, I'm going to talk about 12 different games and around 12 different mechanisms for those games. The reason for this, normally, as you know, I do these videos during the week where I focus on one game and one mechanism for that game, but over the last 6 months, I've just had some games pile up on that list, and I feel like I'm getting to the point where I may not ever actually get to them, or I may not give them the attention they deserve, and so I want to talk about them today before I completely forget about how these games work, although many of them I would gladly play again. Many of these are great games that I really enjoyed. So it's going to be kind of a quick hits of game mechanisms today. The first is Medieval Academy, which is largely a game about advancing on tracks and scoring points based on your position on those tracks. Some of the points are scored based on where your position compared to other players, some just based on where you are on the track, and there are a few other things going on. But one of the things I really liked about this game, in a game about tracks that also has rounds, I really liked that some of the tracks reset after each round and some didn't. And so you had to make this choice as to whether or not you're going to go after a track that's going to impact your end game score, maybe give you a bunch of points at the end of the game, or they're going to give you points at the end of the round. Some of these tracks that don't reset still gave you points at the end of each round, versus the tracks that maybe give you a lot of points in the short term that do reset. So investing in them in the short term isn't really going to help you in the long term, except in terms of the points. So it felt a little bit like engine building versus instant points. I really like that decision in Medieval Academy. The second game I want to mention is Monarch. Monarch was recently taught to me at a game day I hosted. And I liked a lot of different elements of Monarch. Monarch is largely a kind of a combo tableau building game, and there's a shared element in the middle of the board with apples and coins, and I really liked how that element worked. Basically, on your turn, if you I hope I say this right. On your turn, if you need coins, then you have to pay apples, or it might be the opposite. I shouldn't even be talking about this because I'm saying it wrong. But that isn't my favorite mechanism in it. My favorite mechanism is that there are these, other than the combos, I love the combo building in the game. There are these kind of houses or factions that are independent of the players at the beginning of the game. But as soon as you have a certain number of a certain color of card, so like, I think it's three green cards, it might even be just two or three green cards. If you want, at the end of your turn, you can claim the green banner, the green house banner, and that gives you an ongoing ability for the rest of the game. So, but you don't have to. So if there's a certain banner that you really want, you could hold out for that specific banner, but you can only have one. So I really like that decision. That it gives you a little bit of guidance as to which cards that you buy in the game. There's like an open market of cards that you can buy. And I like that the asymmetry doesn't start at the beginning of the game. It starts maybe a third of the way into the game, and you kind of pick that asymmetry, and then it becomes yours for the rest of the game. That was really cool. You don't completely get a choice. It is based off your cards, but you have the choice as to which cards you buy. That is Monarch. I think it's Monarch for the Realm is the full name of the game. I also played an early copy of Football Highlights 2052 a few weeks ago. Actually, a couple months ago now. And this, I think, is coming to Kickstarter soon. I have not played Baseball Highlights 2045. I think that's the right number. But Football Highlights 2052, it's a two-player game where you are simulating a football game, American football. And the card system in it is really cool. On each card is divided vertically. One bottom half, one top half, and one of those halves refers to offense, and the other half refers to defense. And when you play a card, I believe you play card. It's been a while since I played it, but you play it for one or the other. You play for offense or defense. But then on your next turn, whatever it is that you're doing next, whether it's on your turn you're doing offense, you flip the card around to show the offense side. Like I'm saying, I can't remember if you actually play cards for the first time on offense or defense, but I think it's you play cards on offense. You show the offense side, you do that thing, and then when it's the opponent's turn, you look at, or you flip around and you look at the bottom, you look at the defensive side. And so I like that whenever you play a card, you're making a double choice. You're making a choice now, and you're making a choice for the near future based on how you'll be defending. But you're also giving information to your opponent. You're showing them, hey, offense right now, you were caught off guard by what I'm doing on offense, but you get to see my defensive formation and base your offensive choice based on that. So there is a little bit of agency in the game when you are playing a card based on the visibility of that top and bottom half. Thought that was really cool. There's also a drafting element in the game where, again, you're making a choice as to even which cards you'll have in hand based on those two pieces of information. The fourth game is Queendomino. Queendomino is essentially King Domino, but a little bigger, and they offer... And so if you haven't played Kingdomino, you are position drafting different tiles. A couple different tiles come out each round, and then you are putting those tiles in your tableau, your little empire, and at the end of the game, you're scoring based on how many crowns you have. Crowns are an icon in the game. Crowns you have in each terrain area. So if I have an area that has 5 forests in it and I have 2 crowns, my score for that area would be 2 times 5. It would be 10. Which in itself is a very elegant mechanism. I also like the order selection mechanism in this game, the tile drafting element. But I really also, and so I don't have much more to say about Queendomino because it is essentially the same game, but it adds also tiles that you can buy from the middle row. And they're different types of tiles. They're square tiles, and they give you some of them are ongoing bonuses. Some of them are one-time bonuses, but they are just unique elements that go beyond the simplicity of the normal tile. So I really like that. I like that in any game where you have this simple core element, but then you have these variable elements on a type of component where you have a little bit more freedom to express what those components do. And Queendomino, I think, does that really well. Shadows in Kyoto is the next game. This is one of those games I played for my 2-player top 10 list last week. In Shadows in Kyoto, it reminded me a lot of Stratego, a game that I think I mentioned before that I really, really love. Stratego. Stratego and Shadows of Kyoto are games where you know what your units are, but your opponent doesn't, and you're doing different things with those units. And if you end up having conflict with the opponent's units, then you get to reveal a little bit of information about what they do. But this is the cool thing about Shadows in Kyoto. You have these numbers 3 through 1, actually 3 through 0, 0 through 3, that your opponent can't see. These are little stickers on the back of your tokens, your meeples. And some of them contain fake information, and others have real information. And I know that's a little bit of a weird concept there. It's a bit of a misnomer. But basically, you're trying to capture the opponent's pawns that have real information. You're trying to get that real information. And if you capture them, if they have fake information, then you are actually just, you're kind of hurting yourself. I'm not describing this well at all, am I? It's a weird, abstract game. But the point is, I like the idea that even when you have conflict with an opponent's pawn and you learn what number is on that pawn, you do not get to know whether or not they have real or fake information. You don't know if they're a real or fake informant. And so even then, a lot of the game is built around whether or not you capture the fake or the real information on these opponents. And I like that there's that bit of uncertainty even after you gain some information about the opponent's meeple. I'll move on since I didn't describe that well at all. And I'll move on to another game that I'm not going to describe well at all either. This is Ravens of Thri, Sahashri. I played this again as part of my 2-player list. And I found it hard to wrap my mind around this game. This is a very unique game that I think it probably requires multiple plays to understand it. But the ambition behind the game is that it is an asymmetric, cooperative 2-player game. One player has a lot of information, the other player has less information, but both players are holding back information from each other. One player is trying to solve a spatial puzzle, the other player is trying to give them hints about that puzzle. And I just thought that was pretty cool to have a cooperative 2-player, completely asymmetric game. Just pretty cool concept. Way of the Panda I played a few months ago, and this is one, I won't even go into the whole system of the game, but it has an element in some games that I really, really enjoy where you are almost choosing actions down a path, an action path, and once you move down that path, you can't move back. You can't choose a previously claimed action, and the actions get more expensive as you go. That in itself is cool, but it becomes even more interesting in Way of the Panda because your action points carry over from round to round. So in any given round, you can choose if you just don't want to use all your action points. You can pass out of the round and save them for the next round, knowing that you're using that action path and you want those points to use further down on that path in the next round. So there's a reason why you wouldn't want to do everything in the same round. Also, the more action points you spend, there's actually kind of an exhaust mechanism where you can spend points that you don't even have, and you'll end up getting negative victory points as a result. So that's another reason why you might want to save up some action points so that you don't have to exhaust yourself to get what you want. So the idea is action points carry over to the next round, and there's a reason for it, and I think that's pretty cool. Forbidden Sky is the next one. Forbidden Desert is one of my favorite cooperative games, so I was really curious about Forbidden Sky. It didn't quite hit home for me, but I admire the ambition of it, and a lot of it goes into this idea that you are completing a circuit with actual metal pieces. You're completing this circuit, and if you complete that circuit well and connect it to your rocket ship, the rocket ship lights up. I love that idea. I love that it's not just, the game isn't just saying, hey, this is a circuit. They actually gave you real metal pieces to complete that circuit. The other cool thing about Forbidden Sky that differentiates it a little bit from Forbidden Desert is that there are 2 ways for each character to die, which might sound harsh because the game is giving you more opportunities to lose the game. The 2 ways are health and that your rope that you're using to hang on at this platform runs out. But in actuality, I think it actually makes the game a little bit more flexible because it means that there are 2 different ways that you can take damage. And so it kind of dilutes those 2 ways and lets you last a little longer in the game, at least in theory. So I really like this idea in a cooperative game that maybe health isn't the only way that you can lose in terms of a character perishing or being pushed out of the game. If you add another element in there, then it makes losing health or losing the other one not seem as bad because you still have the other one to go by, as long as you don't run out of it. The next game is City of Gears. Tom Vassell did his review of this recently, and I actually agree with Tom. One of Tom's favorite elements were these little gear tokens that you can get in the game, and you can use them to improve your unit's movement on the game board itself, which is great. That's a great choice that you need to move around this board and have area control, have access to better abilities. Or you can turn that gear over, and on the backside of each gear is a description of a special ability that you get from then on. So you can, instead of placing the gear on the board to aid your movement, you can place it under your player mat or kind of below your player mat with the text side up, showing that you have that ability from then on. I love choices like this in games where both of those choices are viable and important and can be helpful to you. And it's your choice to decide, do I want the engine building in terms of ongoing abilities, or do I want kind of access to more abilities and to the spatial element of the game by placing it on the board. That's City of Gears. I'm sorry, actually, I apologize. I don't have visuals for any of these today. I do have photos, but I figured it wouldn't be a great use of paper to print out 12 different photos for this video. The next one is Council of Four. Council of Four is a Cool Mini or Not game that I played a few months ago. Had a lot of fun with it, and it does something really, really cool. I almost made a full video about it, but then it got pushed back and pushed back. But basically, when you are building on the map on the board, there's like an area control map where you're trying to have a certain number of points. There's a first to achieve bonus that you can get, but there are these action chains or bonus chains that you can get that whenever you build on the board, if the place where you build is connected to other places that you've built, they're kind of connected by roads or rivers or whatever the connection point is, you get to activate the bonuses from all of those other places on the board. And so it gives players a reason to find ways to connect their different cities that they're putting on the board to trigger these really, really powerful bonus chains that can happen in the game. I've seen this element in other games where like doing one thing triggers other things that you've set up in the past, but I really like the spatial element of actually having this on the board. It felt like you were kind of running a supply route through the board every time you got to place, if you place strategically. 2 more here. Okay, that was Council of Four. Hail Hydra is one of these large group bluffing deduction games, social deduction games, similar to The Resistance or Avalon. But this is set in the world of Marvel, the Marvel superheroes. And there are 2 things I really enjoyed about it. One is that in many of these games, you don't actually get to reveal who you are until the end of the game. Or even during the game, people might be accusing you over and over of who you are, and you may or may not be that person. It might make you feel a little uncomfortable. In Hail Hydra, you could just come out and say, I am Hydra. You announce it by saying Hail Hydra, and you flip over your card and show, hey, I'm a Hydra agent. And when you do that, you are still very much in the game. Even though players know who you are and they can use that information against you, at least the heroes can, you have a new power. You have these new things that you can do as a member of Hydra that makes you still more powerful, which I thought fit really well with the theme of the Hydra, that they are still powerful even when they are outed in the world of Marvel. The other element of Hail Hydra I really enjoyed is that you are trying to fight these villains that show up. You're collectively fighting these villains, and then you move on to the next villain. But so in many games I've seen this mechanism where you're fighting a monster or a villain, and just by default you want to destroy that monster, kill that monster, defeat that monster as soon as possible. In Hail Hydra, that isn't always necessarily the case, because each villain has a special ability that might say something like, if you defeat this villain the round that it comes out, you do this amount of damage to the city. Or if you haven't done this before you defeat the villain, this bad thing happens. So I really like that it isn't just an instant decision to kill the villain. There's actually some discussion around it, and it can obfuscate who's the good guy and who's the bad guy, because the bad guys might not help out with a certain battle. Secretly, they might help out with a certain battle, but they can claim that, hey, we didn't really want to defeat this villain right away. We wanted to keep him out here. So I really like how that helps keep the hidden information hidden as long as it is. That is Hail Hydra. I'm on to my last game here. This is Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small, which is essentially a very distilled version of Agricola into a two-player game. And there's just a little, well, in Agricola in general, I love that the resources accumulate from round to round if you don't use the actions. That is just a universal thing I love about Agricola and any game that does that. In Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small, one little touch that I really like, and people who have played Agricola will hopefully appreciate this. A big part of Agricola is building fences so that you can breed more animals and just contain more animals and have more points at the end of the game. I really, really like that your house tile, and really any building tile that you acquire in Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small, comes with a built-in fence all around it. So the building itself becomes a fence link that you can use throughout your farm. It's just a little touch, but I really, really like that element of Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small. That's it. 17 minutes. I got through 12 games and probably 12 plus mechanisms in 17 minutes. I would love to hear your thoughts on these games. If you have a favorite mechanism that I didn't mention, if I said something incorrectly about one of these games, because it's been a while, feel free to correct me in the comments, kindly, I hope. But I would really love to hear your thoughts on your favorite mechanisms in these games. If you forget the ones I discussed, I will post the names in the description of the video so that you can refer back to those games as you were typing your comments. Thanks, and I look forward to hearing from you. I will see you on Tuesday with a favorite mechanism video for perhaps one of the games behind me. I'll be playing one of these this afternoon, or maybe two. We'll see. Take care.